The NFL draft is a confusing time, with players rarely going in order of how their careers will pan out. This is why NFL teams have scouts and must rely on them to find the future of the franchise, a role that the Miami Dolphins believed they had found in 2012 when they selected Ryan Tannehill 8th overall. Tannehill was supposed to be the savior of the Dolphins, but after injuries and poor play, was traded away prior to the 2019 season to the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee was already in a sticky situation with 2015 second overall pick Marcus Mariota, who they benched after a 2-4 start in 2019, handing the reins to Tannehill. A move that revived not only Tannehill's career, but the Titans themselves. They went on to win 6 of their next 7 and secured a playoff spot in Week 17. The career of Tannehill has been a wild ride, but in his 8th season in the league, he looks like the franchise quarterback the Dolphins thought they drafted in 2012. This is how Ryan Tannehill revived his career. If you plan on going to any events coming up, make sure to use SeatGeek when purchasing your tickets. SeatGeek makes ticket buying as easy as possible by giving you a 1 to 10 score and a view from your seat. You can use our code JDP at checkout to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, guys, that's code JDP for $20 off your first purchase. Now, let's get right back into the video. Before we talk about the Titans rollercoaster 2019 season and the revival of Tannehill, we first need to look at why the Dolphins took a chance on him back in 2012. Ryan Tannehill attended Texas A&M where he redshirted his first season. He found himself in a battle for starting quarterback as a redshirt freshman, but ultimately lost. The decision led to Tannehill making a shocking career change, moving to wide receiver. He succeeded in his new role, recording 844 yards and 5 scores. Tannehill didn't care about the new position and expressed his desire to become a starting quarterback. He competed for the starting quarterback role again in his redshirt sophomore season, but lost and opted to return to wide receiver. He continued his receiving success, earning an All-Big 12 honorable mention after racking up 609 yards and 4 scores. Tannehill stayed at wide receiver to start his redshirt junior season, accumulating 143 yards in the first 6 games of the season. It was then when Tannehill got his ultimate goal, switching over to quarterback, gaining the starting role and leading the Aggies to a 45-27 victory over Texas Tech. In the start, he passed for a school record 449 passing yards and even punted once, something he'd do 2 more times in the coming weeks. Tannehill led the Aggies to a top 25 ranking and wins over number 11 Oklahoma and number 9 Nebraska on the season. He had 1,638 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 6 picks. He earned an All-Big 12 honorable mention for the 2nd consecutive season, this time as a quarterback. He started in every game at quarterback for the first time as a redshirt senior, putting together a solid season, passing for 3,744 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. He had an impressive 133.2 quarterback rating. Following the season, Tannehill was considered to be the 3rd best quarterback prospect in the draft, behind Stanford's Andrew Luck and Baylor's Robert Griffin III. At 6'4", 220 pounds, he ran an impressive 4.58 second 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. Scouts said that he was a natural athlete at the position, but will need to continue to develop. At the 2012 NFL Draft, Tannehill was taken 8th overall by the Miami Dolphins, who were in need of a starting quarterback. He was named to the starting quarterback role for the Dolphins out of training camp. He struggled early against the Texans in a Week 1 loss, throwing for 219 yards and 3 picks. That first game didn't strike his confidence though. Tannehill quickly improved in Week 2, passing for 200 yards and a score in a win over the Raiders. He went on to set franchise rookie records for passing yards, completions, and attempts on the season. Miami went 7-9 behind his 3,294 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 13 interception season. His rookie season is the only year he's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns. Over the next 3 seasons for the Dolphins, Tannehill led them to 2 8-8 seasons and a disappointing 6-10 year. He averaged 4,055 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions per year over the span. The man who was supposed to be the savior of the Dolphins hadn't shown great promise yet, but there was still time. Miami started 1-4 in 2016, but went on to win 9 of their next 10 games and make the playoffs. A year that should have been a major step for the Dolphins fell apart though, when in the midst of a winning streak, Tannehill went down with a season-ending knee injury. The Dolphins lost in the playoffs to the Steelers without their starter as Matt Moore took over. Tannehill threw for 2,995 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions before the injury. He also completed a then career-high 67.1% of his passes. There were expectations for 2017 as the question "what if" loomed over Dolphins fans. But again, it all fell apart when in the team's first 11-on-11 non-contact drills, Tannehill tore his ACL, ending his season before it even started. Miami brought in veteran Jay Cutler and went 6-10. In 2018, what would ultimately be his final year in Miami, Tannehill played in just 11 games as he dealt with the shoulder injury. He was 5-6 and passed for 1,979 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 9 picks on the season. Miami went 7-9 with Brock Osweiler at the helm for some of the season. Tannehill was labeled as a bust. He never got the job done in Miami and only disappointed. The Dolphins decided to move on from Tannehill and traded him in a 6th-round pick away to the Titans for a 4th and a 7th in 2019. Marcus Mariota attended Oregon, where he started for 3 seasons and won the Heisman Trophy in 2014, right before he declared for the 2015 NFL Draft. Mariota played a different style of football at Oregon, but that didn't stop the Titans from taking Mariota with the 2nd overall pick behind Jameis Winston. The Titans were awful in his rookie season as they went 3-13. He missed 8 games due to injury over his first 4 seasons and threw for over 20 touchdowns once in an impressive 2016 campaign where he had 26 and threw only 9 picks. Jury is still out on whether or not Mariota was ever a good NFL quarterback, but most would say no. The Titans had a good year in 2018, starting 9-5, but after Mariota went down, they finished 9-7 for the 3rd consecutive season and missed the playoffs with first-year head coach Mike Vrabel. This puts us at the start of the 2019 season. Marcus Mariota has been disappointing and is now backed up by Ryan Tannehill, who hasn't played in 14 games in a season since 2015. The Titans walked into a Week 1 matchup as a 5.5-point underdog against the Browns, a team that had seemingly been given the Super Bowl championship in the offseason. Tennessee dominated, beating what was supposed to be a good Cleveland team 43-13. The stout defense forced 3 interceptions off of Baker Mayfield, and rookie wide receiver A.J. Brown exploded onto the scene, catching 3 passes for 100 yards. The Titans started the year as good as possible, and starting quarterback Marcus Mariota performed well, passing for 248 yards and 3 scores. But the tide would quickly turn as Tennessee would lose their next 2 games, scoring 17 and 7 points in losses to the Colts and the Jaguars. The Broncos. Mariota was benched in the 3rd quarter of the Titans' Week 6 game against Denver after throwing for 63 yards and 2 interceptions that put them down 13-0. The Mariota experiment was put on hold, and the Titans turned to backup quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill turned the season around for the Titans immediately, leading them to a close victory over the Chargers in his first start. The victory was a sign of what was to come for Tennessee. Tannehill won 6 of his first 7 starts, including a textbook win over Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and a victory over the Raiders where he threw for 391 yards and 3 scores. He was named AFC Offensive Player of the Week for the performance. After being 2-4 following the first 6 Mariota starts, the Titans found themselves 8-5, the same record as the AFC South leading Texans. Tannehill dominated in the 7-game stretch, passing for 1,849 yards and throwing 15 touchdowns to just 4 picks. He had a 121.7 passer rating over the span and completed an impressive 73% of his passes. A big Week 15 matchup against the Texans loomed, a game to determine the leader of the division. Tannehill has faced adversity since he entered the league, and it has led to where he is today, but he'd have to do it again. He and the Titans fell in a close 24-21 loss to the Texans that put them in a fight for the final wild card, and after a 38-28 loss to the surging Saints, were in trouble. Week 17 story. The statistical turnaround under Tannehill was huge. Mariota led the Titans to 20 or more points in a game just once after Week 1. Tannehill took over and scored 20 or more in all 10 of his starts. Tennessee averaged a 5th worst 16.4 points per game before Tannehill took over. They would then continue to average a 2nd best 31.4 points for the remainder of the season. Tannehill ranked 3rd in the league in competition percentage with 70.3 this season, was 1st in yards per competition with 9.6, and 1st in quarterback rating with a 117.5. He had 2,742 yards and 22 touchdowns to just 6 picks. ESPN's Diana Rossini has reported that the Titans are discussing a new contract for Tannehill, not a franchise tag, a deal to be the Titans starting quarterback for the future. It is worth noting that Tannehill isn't the only reason for the Titans' resurgence, but he certainly helped. Derrick Henry rushed for a crazy 1,540 yards and added 16 touchdowns. Tannehill was also aided by rookie A.J. Brown, who's becoming a star wide receiver and already has a 1,000-yard season under his belt. The Titans have not only taken one of the most dominant franchises in NFL history down last Saturday with their win over the Patriots, but just this week, Ryan Tannehill and the Titans pulled off a complete stunner, defeating the dominant Lamar Jackson-led Ravens team in Baltimore. This Ryan Tannehill-led offense may be the Cinderella story we always love to hear about. Tannehill's story is not only impressive, but unique. You know what they say, one man's trash is another man's treasure. The Dolphins now continue their quarterback search, while their former is well on his way to winning Comeback Player of the Year after missing 21 games over the last 2 seasons. The Tannehill revival has been one of the top stories of the 2019 season. Let's see if it can continue into the AFC Championship game, where the Titans are set to play either the Texans or the Chiefs. This has been how Ryan Tannehill revived his career.